All right, everybody, this is a guided walkthrough for the first day of the Advent of Cyber event over at TryHackMe.com. This room is called Linux CLI Shells Bells. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you come up on one of these rooms is you want to join the room. So you can go ahead and click on the green Join Room button. And I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the TryHackMe Advent of Cyber event. So the Advent of Cyber event is a 25-day event, which runs from the 1st of December until the 25th of December. And each day, you can come back to tryhackme.com and you can do a room which showcases different parts of cybersecurity. So one day it might be talking about Linux stuff. The next day it might be talking about going through logs for different bad actors or something like that. And on another day, it might teach you about shell coding or about new technologies. Each day is a little bit different, and you're going to be exposed to a lot of different technologies through this event. So let's go ahead and start this first day over here. So it says Linux CLI Shells Bells. So for each one of these, rooms, generally what you want to do is you want to click into the first task, and it'll tell you what it's all about. So there's a storyline going on with this going along with this event. So what I can do is I can read a little bit about what's going on, and hopefully it'll help us better understand. So I'll put on my best storyteller's voice, and let's go. The unthinkable has happened. McSkitty has been kidnapped. Without her, Wareville's defenses are faltering, and Christmas itself hangs by a thread. But panic won't save the season. A long road lies ahead to uncover what truly happened. The TBFC, Best Festival Company, team already brainstorms what to do next, and their first lead points to the TBFC Web 01, a Linux server processing Christmas wish lists. Somewhere within its data may lie the truth, traces of McSkitty's final actions, or perhaps the clues to King Malhair's twisted vision for Eastmas. Okay, so we've got our bad guys for this particular event. It's these rabbits who are trying to take over Christmas and make it Easter. I'm not completely sure. So what's going on for today's learning objectives? Learn the basics of Linux command line interface, CLI, explore its use for personal objectives in IT administration, and apply your knowledge to unveil the Christmas mysteries. So for each one of these rooms, it'll tell us what we need to do. So do we need to start the attack box today? That's no. Do we need to start a VM today? That's yes. Is there split screen available? Yes. Is there a direct link available? No. Am I given credentials connect to directly via VM via RDP, VNC, or SSH? Yes. So it says start the lab by clicking on the start machine button below. So we can click on this button over here to start the virtual machine we need to use to solve today's challenge. While we're waiting for the machine to initialize, we can just take a look at what is going on inside this room. So if you want to connect yourself using your own machine, you could use these credentials right here. But for right now, all we need to do is we need to click on this checkbox over here that says I have successfully started my virtual machine. So click on check. And so we can move on to task number 2. So we'll just click on task number 2. And it says working with the Linux CLI. There's no graphical interface on this server, so how do we look for clues? So who needs a GUI? So graphical interfaces are called GUIs, and what we're dealing with here is CLIs, or command line interfaces. So it's basically a terminal where you can type in all of your commands. Okay, so we can use a bunch of different commands on the terminal here to achieve different goals on the file server over here. So it says here that we can type in this command over here to echo hello world. So echo space, and then between some quotes we'll put in hello world. Okay, and that'll just print out the message hello world. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of different commands we can use to do different things on the file system, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So it talks about navigating the file system. So the file system uses a lot of different commands. After you've been practicing using the commands, they'll become very, very natural to use. So for example, we can use the ls command to see what's in the current directory over here. So we've got some directories, we got some files, and we can also do the pwd command to print the working directory. So in the file system, you can think of it as going to different locations in a building, or I guess you could use a bunch of different analogies. It's asking us to go into the guides directory using the cd command. So cd is a command you can use to change directories. And we saw from the ls command that there were a bunch of different directories here. So there's the desktop directory, downloads, music, etc. They want us to move into the guides directory. So you can do cd space and then the name of the directory, guides, and then move into it. So from here, we can take a look at what's inside this directory with the ls command. So we don't see anything here. All right, so we moved into the new directory called guides, but we still don't see anything. So the reason is because of something called hidden files and hidden directories. So I can go back to my walkthrough here. And so the first question they're going to ask us is which CLI command would you use to list a directory? So to list a directory, you need to use the ls command. So the ls command is used to list out a directory's contents when using the CLI command line interface terminal. So the second question is, what flag did you see inside of the McSkitty's guide? So when we moved into the guide directory here, we tried to use the ls command, but we weren't able to see anything. So sorry, let's go over here. So ls doesn't show us anything. The reason is because there's a hidden file inside of here. So hidden files are files that start with the dot inside of a Linux file system. So if we run ls with this extra little bit, ls-a, then we'll be able to see the hidden files and directories. So here we see there's one file in here that is a hidden file. It's called .guide.txt. So what they want us to do is they want us to read this hidden directory. We can do that with the cat command. So anytime we want to read a file inside of Linux, we can type in the word cat and then space, and then the name of the file we want to read. So cat space .guide.txt. Okay, and we get this message here. I think King Malhare from HopSec Island is preparing for an attack. Not sure what his goal is, but eggs exploits on our servers are not good. Be ready to protect Christmas by following this Linux guide. Check the var log and grep inside. Let the logs become your guide. Look for eggs that want to hide and check their shells for what's inside. So PS, great job finding this guide. Your flag is this. So we're going to be using this flag to answer some questions a little bit later today. That's the first flag, for sure. All right. So let's keep on going down with what is going on here. So looking for the hidden guide, we just did that using the ls-a flag, which shows the hidden files. Okay, so the next thing they want us to do is they want us to grep the logs. So inside of the Linux file system here, there are a bunch of different directories, and this directory right here, the /var/log directory, is where all of the system's logs are located. So we can move to that directory using the cd command. By the way, anytime you're on the terminal and you don't want to see all the stuff on the screen, you can always clear the terminal and go back up to the top of the screen using the clear command. So just type in clear, hit enter, and that's going to clear the screen and send you back up to the top. So we can move into the var log directory by giving the file address. So it's cd space /var/log. So we're going to move into this directory now, and then we can see that when we print out our current directory, we're in var/log. So what's in this directory? There's a bunch of log files in here. Most of the log files have the .log extension, but not all of them. So there are a bunch of logs here. They want us to look in a specific log. So the name of the file is called auth.log, eath.log. And what we want to do is we want to look for any lines inside that file that say failed password. Okay, so what they want us to do now is they want us to use the grep command on the auth.log file to look for lines that have the word failed password in them. So what we can do is we can run the command grep failed password to auth.log. So we're looking inside the auth.log file for any lines in the file that say failed password using this grep command right here. So grep is a very, very important command. It's very good for finding little bits of information inside of files. When we run that command, we see that there are a lot of lines here that include the word failed password. So we see here that most of them come from the root user, and we can see that over here. So from root or root on here, for root something something. So we can also, okay, so what we can do is we can look for failed password, but we can also get rid of any lines that include the root user and see what other users there were failed passwords for. So we can run the same command. We can run the pipe, which will pass this output here into the input for the next command, which is another grep command, and we're not looking for lines with root in them. Okay, and in that case, we see here there's somebody tried to log in as admin, username Apple Manager sem8 deployer. So what we can kind of understand here is that somebody was trying to do a brute force attack on this server. They were trying to figure out which names were valid on this server by trying to use as many usernames as possible. So this was a type of attack. Okay, so they say here that there was this one particular user. So failed password for sockmiss. Failed password for sockmiss, eggbox. I mean, we could probably find this inside the log as well. So we're going to run the grep command again, but instead of grepping for failed password, we're going to grep for this username. So the username is eggbox196. And we see here that there's a bunch of failed password attempts for this particular user. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Okay, so the next section is called finding the files. So what we need to do here is they're trying to get us to run a find command to look for any files that have the name egg inside of it. So what we can do is run the find command. The find command is used to find certain files in the system according to specific criteria. So the criteria could be a name, they could be a file owner, they could be like files of a certain size, etc., etc. Most of the time, we're going to be looking for files of a specific name. So in this case, we're going to look for files called egg, and the stars on the at the start of the word egg and at the end of the word egg, they're basically wildcard characters. It means that the file can have the word egg in the middle of the name. It could have the word egg at the beginning of the file, or it could have the word egg at the end of the file name. So we can go ahead and look for those files. We'll also put all of our error messages into the dev null device. So the dev null device is basically a trash can inside of Linux, and we're putting all of the error messages. So the number 2 stands for error messages in Linux, and we're just going to try to find this file called egg in the file system. So specifically, we're looking in the entire file system by giving the slash here as the first argument to the find command. Okay, so wow, there is a lot of egg files apparently. Okay, so if we know that the file name is actually egg strike, we could probably look for that instead, and I think that's what we're going to do. So we're gonna find not egg, but egg strike, because apparently that's the name of the file that we want to look for. Okay, so when we look for specifically egg strike, we should get the file in just a bit. Or maybe we won't. Okay, so I guess specifically we could look for the file called eggstrike.sh. So let's go ahead and do that. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Eggstrike.sh. So a .sh file is specifically a bash script that has a bunch of Linux or bash instructions inside. Okay, so analyzing the egg strike. So what we want to do is we want to run a cat command on this eggstrike.sh file because we're going to be, well, it has a flag that we're going to be needing for later. So just cat and then copy the entire file address for this eggstrike.sh file, then paste it in. This is probably the best way to type in really long file addresses because you definitely don't want to make a typo while you're typing these out. Okay, so it says your flag is THM Sir Carrot Bane attacks. So we can record this somewhere because we're going to be needing it for one of the questions later. But more importantly, well, less importantly, there's a bunch of different commands inside of here as well. So cat wishlist.txt, sort unique, and then put it into a file called dump.txt. So then we delete the wishlist.txt file and then echo out Christmas is fading, and then we rename eastmas.txt into wishlist.txt and echo out Eastmas is invading, and then that's what the script does. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Then you get an then you get an egg. Then we get an egg. Okay, so egg strike, and what else do they want us to do? So it talks about some CLI features, and if you're interested, you can take a look at what these different parts of the Linux CLI are doing. So the pipe symbol, the redirect symbol, and the double ampersand symbol. So the pipe symbol lets you pass output of one command into the input of another command. It lets you chain different commands together, and it's very, very useful. The redirect over here, the is that a greater than sign? The greater than sign and double greater than sign, they're used to overwrite a file or append to the end. So I can demonstrate real quick over here. We'll move into the temp directory for this. So we can echo out a message. So HackerFrogs, like and subscribe. Okay, and then we can redirect that into a file called test.txt. So after we do that, we see that we've got test.txt in here, and we will, why is the connection so weird? Cat test.txt, we've got our stuff in there. So we can also add on to it by echoing out something else. So for example, this is more stuff, and we will double greater than into test.txt. And then when we print it out, we see that we've added on to the file like this. Okay, and so let's move on. So Sir Carrot Bane attacks. So I guess this is one of the bad guys in this particular story. And what do they want us to do? Ah, okay, okay. They're teaching us about the root user in this case. So our user right now is the McSkitty user. If you type in who am I, it'll tell you what your user account name is. And there are certain files that we can't read. For example, the etc shadow file that has all of the password hashes for all the users. We could try reading this, so cat etc shadow, but it's going to give us a permission denied error message here. The reason is because we don't own this file and we don't have permissions to read it. So what we can do now is we can become the root user. So if we're using a administrator level account, like we are over here for McSkitty, we can switch users with the su command. But to become the root user, you have to add something else onto the end, well, to the beginning of it, which is sudo. So the sudo command is going to take the next command and it's going to run it as the root user, which is the highest level user on the system. So if we run sudo su for switch user, we will become the root user. So the root user has complete control over the entire file system. One way to know that you're running as the root user is usually the root user would have would have an octothorpe instead of a dollar sign here, but in this case it's not. So I'm wondering what's going on there. Okay, so we gave the sudo su command to become the root user now, and after we do that, we can go into the root directory. So on a Linux file system, the root directory, which you can find in the top level directory, this is the most secure place inside of a Linux file system because it's the home directory of the root user. So normally we wouldn't be able to enter this directory unless we are the root user, but we are the root user right now. So we're just going to enter that directory, and we see here that there is a bash history file here. So for each user on the Linux file system, they're going to have a bash history file that has all of the commands that user has run in the past on the terminal. So this is good for recalling certain commands that he did in the past, but it can also be a security risk because if you type anything sensitive into the terminal, it'll get recorded by bash history. All right, so we can just read this .bash history file like any other file with the cat command. And we see here that there is a flag. So the flag we're looking for next is this one over here, THM until we meet again. Okay, so we also see all the other commands that were run from this root account as well. So we can see all of the other commands that we just ran over here. And sometimes when you're doing CTF exercises, these kind of history files are very, very good places to look when you're looking for sensitive information. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. So we read the .bash history file, and we're moving on to the questions. Okay, so we'll answer the questions, and then we'll move on to the bonus materials. Okay, so let me just put it over here. Which CLI command would you use to list a directory? So the command is ls. Okay, and then which command helped you filter the logs for failed logins? So when you're trying to filter out some file contents, you definitely want to use the grep command. So grep is the answer. Okay, and the next question is, which command would you run to switch to the root user? So the root user, you would switch to the root user using the sudo su command. So sudo su. Okay, and then finally, what flag did Sir Carrotbane leave in the root bash history? Okay, so the root bash history, we found it. It was this one over here. Just a second. THM until we meet again. So we can just copy this. So paste it in. Okay. All right, so for all of those who consider themselves intermediate and want another challenge, check McSkitty's hidden note in /home McSkitty documents to get access to the key for side quest 1. So the side quests are something that happen every year. It started a couple of years ago over at TryHackMe, but every Christmas event has a side quest, which is a more difficult series of challenges. We're going to be focusing on the main content. We might do the side content as a sort of bonus, but let's move on. So check this, and then we're going to complete the room by clicking on this button over here. Okay, and now we're done. All right, everybody, this was a guided walkthrough for day 1 of the TryHackMe Advent of Cyber event, the Linux CLI Shells Bells room. If you enjoyed this guided walkthrough, please click on the like and subscribe buttons on the video and leave a comment underneath the video. But until next time, HackerFrogs, out.
Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.